I'm going to switch over then to Chris's movie. And I'll set this up. This is really, Chris has taken the time and gone through a high level of what the portal, or what we expect of you with this employer portal. Again, it's a high level, it's a happy path, but it gives you a good idea of what is out there and how it's going to work, and the look and the feel of it. But as we go through, it's a 20-minute video, I think. I'll be pausing it different places so that I can clarify a couple things if I need to, or certainly that we can take questions, because it does cover a lot of different screens. So I don't want to wait till the end to get the questions all at the end. But the first part of this, or one thing that I want to point out, is that anytime you see a red asterisk on a field, that is a required field. It seems like a minor thing, but it's one of the things that I noticed when we were going through this video yesterday or day before. So I just wanted to point that out. But the first part is showing how to log into the portal. It's also going to talk about setting up a contact. And so a contact for an employer, and then it's going to show how to invite and set up that contact as a user. Because you can have contacts at your employer and not set them up as a user. The thing is, you can't have a user. In other words, somebody that uses and is able to make changes in the portal without being the contact first. So that's the first part of this video. So let's get going. And if you can't hear it, somebody stop me right away, but I think I pushed the right button early on.
Hello, and welcome to a demonstration of the Employer portal of the Gemini system currently in development, as TRS looks to switch from annual to per pay period reporting as part of the overall implementation of the new legislatively mandated supplemental savings plan. Okay, let's start off by signing in. First, I'm going to enter the email address and password associated with my account and click sign in. Then I will be brought to a multi-factor authentication step where I will send a code to the phone number associated with my TRS contact, and I will receive a code as a text message on my phone, and then enter that code into the box here. And once I've entered that, then the sign-in will be complete, and it will take me through to the employer reporting dashboard, which acts as your sort of home page when you are logged into the employer portal. As you can see, there are links to the current TRS employer access site, the public website, the employer section of that. There's also links to employer bulletins here on the left, and on the right is where you would be able to keep track of reports that you are currently in the process of creating. So the first thing we're going to do is go to this menu up here at the top that says employer info, and we're going to go to the contact screen because we are going to add another contact and user to our employer. Okay, so here we are on the contact screen. You can see that we have one contact already in place, which is the user that I am logged in as. Initially, the reporting primary contact that we currently have on file will be added as a user and sent a registration email by TRS staff, and then they will then be responsible for adding any additional contacts and new users to the system from there. So if I'm the first user and I am the primary reporting contact, let's add a new contact who could be our contact for accounting. So we're going to go up here.
On my screen, the add contact, the whole right side is blocked by our faces. Josh, is it everybody seeing the same thing I am or no?
No,
In the full video?
Yeah, what you're sharing from your screen. So all we see is the presentation. It looks great over here.
Okay.
Here and click add new contact. I'm going to type in their name. And job title. And I'm going to mark them as the accounting contact and that they are the primary contact. Now I'm going to enter in their contact information. We'll need a mobile number like I just demonstrated in order to sign in using the multi-factor authentication. And then I'll need to type in an email address as well to send the registration email to. Okay, we've got our contact created. So now I'm going to go over here to this actions menu on the left for my newly created Jane Doe. And I'm going to click invite to invite them to register as a new user in the system. I will be given the option to select from different security roles for our new user Jane, and because she is our accounting administrator, we're going to select the role of payment remitter and then click send invite. We'll get confirmation that the invite was sent. Okay, now we're going to step aside briefly to show that Jane would receive an email just like this one, inviting her to register. And so then when she clicks the register in the email, then she would be taken to this screen here to start the sign up process. So for security purposes, to confirm her identity, she'd need to enter the TRS code of her employer. Take a look at the terms of use and click I agree, and then we'll click proceed. And then she can create her new password. Now she clicks proceed. Her account has been created successfully and she can proceed to sign in, where then she could enter her email, password, and MFA. All right, now jumping back to the contacts.
Okay, going to pause there. A couple things that I want to mention. Chris showed the multi-factor authentication, the MFA, and that is something that early on we knew that we wanted in this application. But it works, you can see it works similar to most banking applications or any financial institution application. But the goal is there to keep this as secure as possible. Talking about the contacts, we have contacts for every employer currently in our legacy system that we call STAR. And I want you to know that we are going to bring all of the current contacts, excuse me, all the current contacts from our legacy system into Gemini prior to go live. So there shouldn't be a whole lot of new contacts that you need to set up, but you could certainly set up more contacts if you want to, or you could remove some if you want to do that. What we won't have is users set up in Gemini. So what we're going to do is every employer has what we consider a system administrator. And that system administrator has always, even in our current access, controlled who has access, who the contacts are, and it's going to work the same way in Gemini. So once we bring everybody over and prior to the go live date, we will from TRS do that invite process to all of the system administrators. So the expectation is that system administrator then will go through the process that Chris just demoed, where they register, get their account set up, set their password, and then they'll set up their roles. But they'll be the first one set up as a user, and then that system administrator then will look at the contacts, the other contacts for that district, and be able to set them up and invite them to become users and set their role, just like Chris did. The other thing I failed to mention during the PowerPoint, and I just want to mention is, because we have a link on that landing page to the current member access website. That member access website is not going away. Obviously, we talked about next year we are still doing an annual report, but you'll still need that member access to do supplementary reports. Those are not changing, at least in this first phase. So if you have a SEP report to complete, it's still going to be out there on the current web access, and it will not be in Gemini. So with all of that and what Chris just has shown, are there any questions about the logging in, setting up contacts, inviting users? Nothing, Josh?
Not seeing anything yet. We did have one question come in from Sue, but as you kept going in the explanation about the administrator and all that, it answered the question already. So that's all that's come in so far.
Okay. So this next part is Chris is going to show how to set up some of the what we call informational screens. You know, if you have a flex plan or not, if the board pays part of the TRS member contribution on behalf of the members, sick leave, that sort of thing. So he's going to walk you through those screens.
We're now going to start setting up some of the background information about our employer for this fiscal year. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go up to that same employer information menu and click Flex Plan. So we're going to add information about flexible benefit plans that are available for employees at my employer. So we're going to go up here to the right and click Add Flex Plan, and we're going to pick the current 2020-2021 fiscal year. Select whether the job category that this benefit applies to is either for teachers or administrators. Gonna select teacher here and then enter a dollar amount. Then we got two questions here. Are new hires eligible for this flex plan? We're going to click no, and so then that enables this second question. For those who are grandfathered into this plan, do they have the option to switch? And we're going to say no. Then I also have the option to leave a comment here, perhaps for my own notes about the specifics of the plan, or who it's available to, or when the cutoff was. Got my comments in there, click Save. I now have a flex plan added. So next we're going to go back up to our menu here, and we're going to select sick leave, and we're going to enter what all the available sick leave allotments are for our employees. So I'm going to click Add New in the top right here and say that it's for this fiscal year, and we're going to start by entering the allotments available to teachers. And so we have, let's say, 5 different allotments available to our teachers depending on their longevity. We've got 10, 12, 14, 18, and 20. And then I'm required to leave some comments below, basically explaining who is eligible, what groups are eligible for which allotments. So get that filled in, hit save. We've got our teacher allotment there. Now let's go click add sick leave again. Pick this fiscal year and administrator. And let's say they have 3, they have 12, 15, and 20. And again, we're going to leave comments explaining who's eligible for what. And click save. And now we have our sick leave entries. Okay, lastly, we're going to go back up to our menu and we're going to select board paid TRS. And this is just where we're going to indicate whether our employer pays any portion of the employee's TRS contributions on their behalf. So let's just pick teachers here, current fiscal year. I'm just going to mark yes, that they do. And we can even leave a comment saying that it's for the full 9%. And click save. We're all done. Teachers, let's go back and say they do the same for administrators and 9%. Okay, now we are ready to get set up to submit our first report. In order to do that, we're going to need to set up a payroll schedule and also set up a bank account that we will use to remit contributions to TRS. So let's start with bank account. Let's go to this reporting menu up here at the top and select banking. And then on the top right again, we'll click to add a new bank account. All right, and now we'll enter the routing number for.
Do you have a question, Josh?
Yeah, Laura asked, she said, our personal days convert to sick days if unused at the end of the year, and she wants to know, are these days included in the sick leave allotment?
Yes, they would be. Yeah, the same way they are now.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, those screens you went through, those are included mostly in the compliance questionnaire currently, which is part of the annual report process. So instead of telling us at the end of the year for us to use as to help validate the annual report, you're going to be telling us prior to the year starting, so that as you're submitting reports, all those screens will be used towards validations on the data that's coming in. But that's a good question she has.
For our account, and we can click search there, and that will return our bank based on the routing number we've entered, just to kind of confirm that we've got it right. Let's enter an account number. Is it checking their savings? Some sort of name associated with the account. We'll put the name of our employer. Whether we plan on using it for the main DB plan or the DC plan, we'll select both. And a begin date. And now we've got our bank account set up. So then our next step is to go up to the menu and hit payroll schedule.
Before we get into payroll schedule, are there any other questions? One of the big changes on the banking is that you're going to be able to indicate more than one bank account. If you happen to have more than one, our suspicion or assumption was that with the SSP, that may come out for some districts out of a different checking account than the regular DB. Not necessarily the case, but we wanted to at least give you that option to add more than one bank account. And then when it comes time to pay, you just pick out which bank account you want this to come from.
Not seeing any questions come in right now.
Okay, we'll move on to the pay schedule then. So
we're going to click add payroll schedule here at the right. And it's going to walk us through a few steps. We want it to be for this fiscal year. Let's say our first pay date of the year is July 15th of 2020. Click proceed. Our employees are paid semi-monthly, and they are paid current with no lag. Now we want to say who this schedule is for to make it simple for the demo. Let's just say it applies to everybody, teachers and administrators, and then our full-time, part-time, substitute, everybody. Click generate schedule. So based on what we've entered, we've got a schedule created that will try to be as close as possible to what we think your payroll schedule will be. If you need to make any changes, you can go over here to the right and add a new row to add another pay date if needed. And then you can also go to all of the already created rows and make any necessary changes there. Let's say if you need to change one of the pay dates, let's change that from the 31st to the 30th. And then you can also mark pay periods as being ones that you pay your flex benefit on, or you can also just mark it special. So if I was adding, say, a 25th pay to my 24 semi-monthly payments, I would mark that as a special one. So we've made our changes. Now let's click save. We've got our payroll schedule created. So now we are all set to upload our first report. Let's go back up here to the reporting menu and select new report. Takes me to the upload file screen where I can click into this field here, which will let me browse for a file. I'll select one, and now I'll click upload file, which brings me to this progress bar, which will show the progress of my file being uploaded and the information contained in my file being run through validations.
A couple questions that came in, Grant.
Okay, it looks like.
Yes.
So Laura, she's asking, can you explain payment lag?
Yes, payment lag is basically the lag between the pay period end date and the actual pay date. So Chris marked current in that example. So, and in fact, that's how we get paid at TRS. We have a pay period that's September 1 through September 15th, and our pay date is actually September 15th. So that would be current. If there was a lag, it would be a number of days. You know, if every pay period you get paid on the 10th and the 25th of the month, but your pay period is still the 1st through the 15th, then you have a 10-day lag there. Now, that doesn't always translate to school districts, and we do understand that, because school districts, we are finding they usually take the annual contracted salary amount, say it's 50,000, and they divide it by 24 or 26, whatever the pay frequency is, and it's not tied to any pay dates at all, or pay periods at all. And there's no easy way to answer how to enter those, but we do need a pay period begin and end date so that we can tie that to how many days in that pay period that person worked. It doesn't have to be tied to the work done as compared to the earnings, but we do need to know how many days that person worked in a certain pay period. All the vendors are setting up their applications so that they're also asking for these dates, because it is part of the payroll file. Those are data elements that have to come to us through the payroll file. So if you're using one of these vendors, they're going to ask you the same thing. What's the pay period begin, what's the pay period end, and what's the pay date? And I just need to stress that whatever you use in their application, we're going to have the same thing in the employer portal, because they have to match up. If they don't, it's going to reject that file.
Great. So going off of that, I guess you kind of already addressed this when you gave the example with the 10-day lag, but Sue is asking, so if a pay period ends on Friday the 10th, but they receive their pay on Friday the 17th, does that mean there's a 7-day lag?
That's correct. That's correct.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And one more thing to just add on the lag topic real quick, sorry, Grant, is just that that is mostly just used as a way to try and generate a schedule as close to what yours will actually be like before you're able to then go in and make individual changes. So if, you know, if it's like Grant mentioned, September 1st through September 15th, and then, you know, it's like a semi-monthly schedule, where for September, you know, it's like a whole pay period lag. So in September, it'd be a 15-day lag, but then in August, it would have been a 16-day lag because there's 31 days. So it doesn't have to be an exact match. It's just picking whatever's going to get the dates closest as possible for that initial generation. So then you can go in and have to make as few tweaks as possible to get your accurate schedule.
Yeah, and we've tried to build this pay schedule so that it's as flexible as it needs to be for each district, because each employer handles their payroll differently. We have certainly found that out. So we need this pay schedule to work for everybody, and that's our goal. But you know, there may be a challenge for some employers to set up these pay schedules, and we are more than willing to help you out with that and walk you through it when the time comes. Okay.
Finished uploading. It's going to take me to this results screen. It's got my one report that's in my file listed here. If you have multiple reports in one file, they'd each be listed here individually with the number of people in there and the totals for earnings and contributions, etc. So let's go to this actions menu over here, and let's click details and dive into our report. Okay, as you can see, I've got all the records in my report listed here. It's a small one. I've only got 12 people here. Some of the options available to me on the screen in the top right there, I can add another record to the report if needed. So if I needed to add in an adjustment to a previous report that I sent in, something like that, or somebody that I forgot that didn't make it into my file. I can also check this errors only box, which will just show me the records on my report that have errors on them. So then going to look at the records down here in my table, if I click this actions drop down, you can see I've got multiple different options, including the ability to copy the record or delete it. Let's go with quick edit here, which will let me make changes to the fields that are just the ones listed here in the table. So for Elizabeth here, let's change her days paid from 10 to 9. Hit save. And as another example, let's edit on Leopold here. If I make a change to his earnings and click away, you can see it's going to recalculate the contributions and THIS contributions automatically to fit that. So let's cancel that change. So now we can see that I've got some errors on these records that I need to resolve. So for this person, we've got an issue with their contract days not matching their job category. So let's hit edit details to pull up that record and all the information in it so that we can take a better look at what we might need to change here. So we've got this person listed as an administrator, but only 180 contract days. So let's change that to them being a year-round administrator, 261 days. Hit save. can see that error has now gone away. I've also got an informational message on one of these where on one of my part-time contractual people here, it's just informational, letting us know that the FTE percentage that's in my report is different than what we'd reported before, so we're just going to update what we have on file.
And quickly to clarify the errors, and he's going to correct one more, I believe. We have 3 different severities of errors. He showed the red icon, and that's a fatal error where something has to be fixed on that record in order for it to go through. The blue is informational, that's on the other end of the spectrum. And the informational really is just that. Hey, we see something in this file and it's going to either cause us to change our database, or we're at least telling you it doesn't match what we already have in our database, but we may not be changing it. But these error resolutions over in the top right, you can expand those and it'll give you a full explanation of what this error means and what we expect you to do with those. In the middle, there's warnings, and a warning error is a reasonableness check. You know, we're seeing something in the file that really doesn't look right, but it could be. So we're calling it a warning, and we're going to ask you to certify that edit before you can move on. So you don't necessarily have to change any data in the record, but we want you to at least look at it and confirm that what you're reporting to us is correct. So either make a correction, or there will be a button to certify that the data is already correct, and then you can move on. I just want to talk about those 3 severity levels.
So now on this last one with errors, it got 3 errors, and it looks like it's an issue with both contract days, FTE percentage, and full annual rate, where they're all listed as 0 for somebody who's part-time contractual. The issue can actually just be solved by the fact that this person is actually a substitute that was misreported as being part-time contractual. So if I know that this person is a sub and I correct them to being a substitute and hit save, now with a substitute we expect all of those values to be 0. And my errors are now gone. So I click that errors only. I have no record with actual errors on them, just that one informational message left over. So now I can hit submit details and move on with my report. That brings me to the total screen here, which is going to just list out the totals of earnings and the different contributions in my file. I have no adjustments in it, so there's nothing listed there. If I want, I could add federally funded earnings to this report to indicate that someone in my report was paid due to a grant. So I'd pick the fiscal year, grant type, and enter a dollar amount in there, and it would calculate the contributions for me. So now I am going to submit my totals and proceed to payment. So now I'm on the payment screen, which shows again my contributions, which results in a total payment due. So I'm going to select my bank account there and type in the total payment due to confirm it and hit process payment. Just get this one last confirmation dialog explaining that the THIS fund and all the others will be drawn out separately, so 2 different withdrawals. And now I'm on the confirmation page, which lists a confirmation number for my report and shows the 2 different amounts coming out for this fund and everything else. So I'm going to click return to dashboard, and I have now completed my report, and you can actually see in that payroll reporting area on the right there, the report we just completed is now listed in a status of payment submitted. And once that gets picked up by TRS and the payment is actually processed and the information gets posted to our members' accounts, then that status will change and it'll actually move to your reporting history because it's no longer in progress. So that completes our demonstration of some of the core functionality of the employer portal on the new Gemini system. Thank you.
Great. We did have a question just come in, a couple questions here. First question, will the federal funds no longer be linked to an employee? Is it now just the total from the payroll?
Correct. Yeah, that's one of the big changes, and hopefully that'll be an easier process, that we do not need to tie Fed fund salary to an individual. Excuse me. Instead, it's at the employer level. So how much of this federal fund or this grant was used for salaries for your entire employee population? So you'll just report it one time on that summary screen. That way, if adjustments need to be made too, right now that's always a challenge, is tying it out to the member. And in Gemini, it would be even more difficult to make adjustments if something is best. So right now, so if you miss federal funds or you report $1,000 too much, you can make that adjustment, and it's just a one-time adjustment at the employer level.
Nice. And then another question here, will that total upload from the payroll vendor, will that total upload from the payroll vendor or have to be added?
Total upload can, I don't know if.
I'm assuming they mean the Fed funds amount. If that's what they're referring to, that does need to be manually.
To that, it will not come from the payroll vendor at all. It'll always have to be manually entered.
Is that what you were referring to, Laura? Yep. Perfect.
Yeah, the vendors, quite honestly, were happy about that too. That's one thing they didn't have to worry about. All right, I think we're getting close to time. I don't know if it was 4:30 or 4:45, but
it was 4:45. Yeah, so we still have some more time for questions. If anyone else has any other questions they want to ask Grant or Chris or Lisa, or if you have any additional questions that you usually get asked, Grant, or might get asked that you might want to go over, anything like that.
Lisa, what do you think? Do you have anything you want to add?
No.
Carlton Lenore is on the call. He's our Chief Benefits Officer, and he's my boss. So Carlton has his hand in just about everything TRS, and I know this project is near and dear to his heart, as it is all of ours. So I don't know, Carlton, you want to add anything? Any comments?
No, just thanks everybody for being on the call. Obviously, we need to duplicate this process many hundreds of times to make sure that we reach everybody. So we're thankful that you guys were available for this, and thank you to IASBO for setting it up and allowing us to present. I did want to clarify one thing as I reread that 403B question. This TRS SSP is a 457B plan. So that's why you don't need to coordinate anything with 403B. A person can maximize their contributions to 403B and 457 separately. And that was kind of the reason why TRS went 457. When we talked to the districts around the state, that was one of the things that we were hearing, is that 403B was the most common and that this could be a supplement to that. So TRS SSP is another option for our members to be able to have a successful retirement outcome. So we hope that once we have Gemini up and running, we'll be able to offer this plan to our members around the state. But thanks again for attending.
Very good. Thank you, Carlton.
Awesome. Thanks so much. We did have another comment just came in here. They're saying in the payroll vendor webinars, Skyward mentioned that it would pull first email from our software and that would update their TRS website. our first email would be their work email and may not be the email they would want specifically if they're retiring.
Yeah, and Chris or Lisa, I may rely on you for this also, but we realize that the email that we're going to get on the file is most likely going to be their work email. So we don't have plans, because in our legacy system, we have an email, and that legacy system is still going to be system of record for the email. So we're not going to update the email address, I believe. Is that right, Chris?
Kind of. It's that because we can only have one in the legacy system, where for now we will only be updating the email address based on what we get in a file from an employer if the member does not already have a valid one on file. So we're not going to replace an existing email address. So if the member's given us their personal one, we're not going to replace it with the work one that you might be providing on a file.
Right. Yeah, emails historically, even from my previous employer dealing with applications there, is emails are hard to maintain, especially when you're dealing with personal and work emails, because somebody changes their email address, I guarantee TRS is the last place that they're concerned with changing that email. But we are going to rely on most of that demographic data coming from the employer, and the employer is going to control that. But the email address is a little different, like Chris said.
Awesome. And we do have another question that came in here. Jennifer is asking, can staff have a 457 with the district and with TRS?
I believe the answer to that is yes, but you do have to watch the IRS limits. Is that right, Carlton?
That is correct. A member can contribute to both their 457 with the district and with TRS. And one of the reasons they might want to do it is that when they look at the investment options available, they may see something near and dear to their heart, like, for example, an ESG option. TRS will have an ESG option in our plan, and they may not be available in the district. So they may want to have contributions to both. But to Grant's point, as part of the participation agreement with the district, we will rely on employer payroll to make sure that those limits are not maxed out for both 457s, because it's considered one plan as far as the IRS is concerned.
Yeah, thanks, Carlton. And that is something that I did forget to mention earlier, but it's something that just came up at TRS. But another expectation we have of employers is to complete an employer participation form for the SSP. So I just want to give the employers that are on this call a heads up that we will be sending out an employer participation agreement that you will be required to sign and return to us, probably through the employer upload. But we'll work out all that and communicate that with you. But that is a requirement for TRS and ultimately then for the employer to complete that form. Anything else, Josh?
Not seeing anything as of right now. Maybe we'll give it a couple more seconds here. I think Lindsay will be heading into the room here in just a minute if we are done, just to do a quick wrap up.
So we need to clean up.
I'm here, surprise.
There she is, on cue. I think we're all done, Lindsay, unless another question comes in.
Well, thank you so much, Grant, for being here, and everyone from TRS who was able to join. We really appreciate it. For all attendees, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for attending. We have enjoyed having you with us over these past couple of days. The survey is in your email inbox, so be sure to fill that out if you need credit for the Support Professionals program or PD CLAC hours. We'd love to hear your feedback, even if you don't need credit, so that we can improve our next virtual event, which is the way of the future, it seems. So any questions, you know how to reach me, and have a great evening.
Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
Grant.
We always enjoy doing these.